All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this regular meeting of the City of Philomath City Council. Today is Monday, January 12th, 2026. Happy New Year, everyone. On tonight's agenda, we'll start with a roll call, then we'll have public comment, followed by our consent agenda, and I'll note the budget calendar in there for councilors to take note of. Under old business, we have the continued discussion of our utility rates. Under new business, we have our typical first of the year appointments to committees and representative roles, as well as a heads up about the LOC Spring Conference, and then our review of the second quarter strategic plan, and then review of the RFQ for our lot on Main Street and 14th. Wonderful. Then we have two ordinances and resolutions up for your consideration. We have one around reserve policy and then one around our water management and conservation plan. Then we have our liaison reports and our management reports before we end with commission correspondence and adjournment. And one note before we do the roll call, just to say, I think we may move old business until after new business, just so we can kind of get through all of our hopefully quick appointment processes and then move into our potentially more thorough discussion. So with that, if the city recorder could call the roll.
Did you say my name? Because it was in and out.
Yes. Present. Present.
Here.
Present.
Present. Wonderful. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone registered online? Okay. Then we'll move on to our consent agenda. Your consent agenda includes our minutes from our December 8th, 2025 work session and regular meeting, as well as the 2026-2027 budget calendar. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved and seconded by Councilor Salsa and Councilor Andrade. Would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. That motion passes unanimously. So then, as long as we have unanimous consent, we'll postpone our old business until after our business. Does that work for everyone? Okay, we have consent on that. Consensus, excuse me. So then we'll move on to new business, starting with item 1, our council standing committee and representative appointments, which is on page 37. Skipping ahead a little bit. I outlined in the memo here, I spoke with each of you individually, or at least called or texted for those who we weren't able to find a time to sit down. And I was going to send out the survey, but in my conversations with everyone seemed happy with what they were doing and didn't really feel the need for changes. So you'll see that reflected in here.
Not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, we're not making a lot of big changes. I also appreciated a few folks mentioned just the idea that, you know, you've now been in these roles for at least a year and you're kind of building good relations and, you know, getting the ball rolling with these organizations that you're a part of, and committees and everything. So, you know, we'd rather keep those relationships going and building rather than start fresh all the time. Obviously, we want to balance that with, you know, we don't want to just have everyone do the same thing all the time. We want to, you know, have every counselor get a little taste of what there is. But the only changes that I made in there, as you can see, are I swapped out myself with Councilor Crocker for the Fire and Rescue board. And that's partly because Councilor Crocker this year was supposed to be our representative to the Willamette Criminal Justice Commission. But right after I appointed her to the Willamette Criminal Justice Commission, the Willamette Criminal Justice Commission changed their bylaws so that they no longer needed a counselor from Philomath. So I'm just trying to make sure we're spreading things out evenly and that she still has a good portfolio. And that's something I've been doing the last couple of years, but I'm okay with stepping back from that, having Councilor Crocker take it on. And then I've taken myself off of the inclusivity committee, so Counselor Crocker and Counselor Andrade will still be the two council representatives. And I love the inclusivity committee. I've been on it almost since it was formed. But I want to move myself around a little bit, make sure I'm seeing all the different parts of the city operation. And I was going to replace myself, so it still has three counselors, but after talking with the city manager, I think we both felt it might actually be beneficial to have two counselors there. That's still a strong connection with the council. And then, as I mentioned in there, we don't run into these issues of having a quorum of the city council present if another counselor wants to attend a meeting. Because the whole intent with inclusivity committee is that anyone can kind of drop in and participate if they want, but thus far it's meant everyone except city councilors can drop in and participate, because then it becomes a city council meeting. So by only having two official members there, any one of us could drop in for a meeting and share our thoughts if that feels appropriate. So that's one other change. And then Councillor Nielsen is being replaced with me on the Housing and Economic Development Committee. And then the rest of these are just things that we've already decided earlier last year. Adding me as the representative to the Ad hoc Public Art Committee, adding Councilor Andrade as the representative to the Historical Society, adding me. So, any questions or concerns with any of that? Yes, Councilor Andrade.
No questions, but I move the city council. Oh, sorry, never mind. Is there?
There should be. I guess we didn't include it.
I accidentally slipped one page too far. It's good.
You can make a motion just to approve the
Let me just confirm. We just didn't include-
That we appoint,
Just confirm my appointments,
confirm
yeah.
the mayor's appointments. Thank you.
Wonderful. Is there? Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor Caseman to confirm the mayor's appointments for the 2026 standing committees and representatives. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. It's been a great year of getting into these roles, and I'm excited to see what we do moving forward. And now,
That was approved 7-0, right?
yes, sorry. And now, enough about us. Now we'll talk about appointing some wonderful members of our community to our boards and commissions and committees, starting with the Planning Commission. We had two positions open, and then we had one that was one vacancy, and then Darlene Rose also completed their term. So then we received two applicants to fill those two vacancies. The two applicants are Mark Christosic. Mike. Oh, sorry. Let's fix that in here. And am I saying your last name right?
Very good.
Christosic? Okay, wow. Somehow I got the hard part right and the easy part wrong. And Scott Ramsey. And you'll see their applications noted in your packet. Any questions or discussion about those appointments? Thank you for applying. I'll say, as always, I'm very pleased with the caliber of people we have interested in serving the city and in giving their time. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that. With that, I'll move that the city council appoint Mike Christosic to serve a 4-year term with the term expiring December 31st, 2029 on the Planning Commission, and appoint Scott Ramsey to serve a 1-year term with the term expiring December 31st, 2026 on the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay. And we don't have any additional spots open right now, right? Okay.
Those are, yep.
Wonderful. So it's been moved by Mayor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Salsa to appoint our two applicants to the Planning Commission. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Aye. Wonderful. They're confirmed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Both Mark and Mike.
Yes. Well, that's true. In advance. Okay, we'll check in a couple months.
Expectations of what we have, expectation.
Okay, and then that brings us to the Budget Review Committee. We have a similar situation. Two of our members completed their terms. That was David Lowe and Amanda Polly. And then we received two applications. Another one from, what's the correct name? Mike. Mike, sorry. This is from Mike Christosic and one from Cody Valencia. So we have both of our applicants here in the audience today. And again, both wonderful, qualified folks who are looking to contribute to the community. So any discussion or questions for the applicants or for the council? I want you two to know, don't take our lack of discussion or questions as a slight, as a good thing.
You need to come prepared and reading
Yes,
your
yes.
bio and that we're confident.
Councilor Andrade?
I move the city council appoint Mike Christosic and Cody Valencia to the Budget Review Committee for 3-year terms with the terms expiring on December 31st, 2028.
Wonderful. Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor Caseman to appoint our two applicants to the Budget Review Committee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Aye. And those appointments are unanimous. Thank you. Well, not thank you yet. Congratulations, and we look forward to your service. Thanks for stepping up. But we're not done yet. Next up, we have the Park Advisory Board. This one I think will be really quick. We had two members, Scott Austin and Tyler Pellet, complete their terms at the end of 2025. And somehow we have received no applications, which is fascinating to me because I feel like this is usually the fun board that people want to be on. So the city manager and I have talked about, I think we'll, with the council's direction, repost that. And oftentimes if we repost it, people are like, oh, like I just assumed everyone would apply for that. And now no one applied. So now I can get it. And if we, kind of highlight the Park Advisory Board, that can attract people who maybe aren't interested in local government, but love nature or something like that. So with that, I'll move that the city council directs staff to re-advertise for applicants until the two open positions are filled.
And I will second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mayor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Salsa to re-advertise the Park Advisory Board vacancies. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful.
Part of the problem is we've made all the committees so much fun to be on.
That's so true.
But we got more
Yes.
competition.
I will say we just filled positions,
That is also
so I
true.
think that's part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's maybe part of it.
Multiple
I like both
things.
of them. Yeah. Okay, this is also a relatively straightforward one. We have Tree Advisory Board with Gianna Bernardini completing her term at the end of 2025, which left us with one vacancy. We received one application from Gianna Bernardini to re-up for another 3-year term. So I'll, Councilor Caseman.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment to the Tree Advisory Board as presented.
Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Caseman, seconded by Councilor Andrade to confirm the mayor's appointment of Gianna Bernardini to the Tree Advisory Board. Is there any discussion or questions on that motion? I'll just say Gianna has been a very, very dedicated member of the Tree Advisory Board, so I was grateful that she wanted to continue. With that, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Gianna is reconfirmed unanimously. Yes, Councilor.
I have
Oh,
potential
sure.
direct conflict of interest in the next. So I don't know if I have to leave, but I've heard
It's
just not
not,
vote.
it's not a legal conflict of interest
Okay.
because there's no money involved.
Okay.
But if you would feel more comfortable abstaining, you can.
I'll vote for it.
Okay, wonderful. So that brings us to our next round, which is our inclusivity ad hoc committee appointments. This one, we had 3 positions open, and then there were actually an additional 2 members who also have their positions open. So there's actually a total of 5 vacancies right now to start out this new year. And you can see the 5 who have completed their terms. We have Jen Amador, Amanda Polly, Jane Sherwood, and Nora Smith. And then we received 3 applications. We received an application from Megan Irwin, Alba Sederman, did I say that? And Mike, sorry, this got me. Okay, I'm questioning myself in the last, okay, Mike Christosic. But we spoke with Mike, and I think Mike did the thing I do sometimes where when you're interested, you just check all the boxes of things you might want to do. And so we didn't want to take advantage of his volunteerism and appoint him to everything. And he said he'd be happy to just do the 2 we've appointed him to. And you know, as we talked about earlier, you're always welcome to attend an inclusivity committee meeting if you'd like. So, so with that, the 2 applicants that we're putting forward are Megan Irwin and Alba Sederman. Yes.
And I just wanted to be clear that Jane Sherwood and Nora Smith were not notified
Yes.
originally, so they were late notified, just so everyone knows. So
Yeah.
we anticipate that if there are additional openings that they may want to apply, they just were not aware when these applications came in that they needed to do that.
Yeah. So if we
It was clear, but
yeah, if we appoint these 2, there will still be 3
yes.
vacancies. And we anticipate if we reopen that, reaching directly out to those 3 to let them, or those 4, I guess. 5, however, yeah, to let them know that that's happening. So, any motions on that?
Let's see, I move the city council appoint Megan Irwin and Alva Sederland to serve 2-year terms with the terms expiring on December 31st, 2027 on the inclusivity, that one, ad hoc committee, and direct staff to re-advertise for additional applicants until the.
Wonderful. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Salsa and seconded by Councilor Nielsen to appoint Megan Irwin and Alba Sederland to 2-year terms on the Inclusivity Committee. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those appointments are also unanimous. This is always how efficient we are at City Council, folks. But I believe there's even more. Next up, we have the Heritage Tree Program Committee. And we had John Simonson and Eric Wiggins complete their terms at the end of 2025. And we did not receive any applicants for this one. Another thing the city manager and I talked about, this committee was pretty dormant this year, so I think there just wasn't a lot of activity or interest in it. We hope to generate some more interest if this.
All we have to do, and we have to remove whatever.
Right, yeah, right, correct, yeah.
More heritage.
Yeah. So with that, I'll move that the city council directs staff to re-advertise for applicants until the 2 open positions are filled. Okay, it's been moved by Mayor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Salsa to direct city staff to re-advertise for applicants until the 2 open positions are filled. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
And that motion also passes unanimously. Okay, and I think, is this last? Yes, last but not least of our appointment process, we have the newly reformed Ad hoc Public Art Committee. We have 1 open position at the end of 2025, and it's a term expiring at the end of 2027. We received 1 applicant to that 1 open position, who's Candy Garcia. And as it notes there,
Let's just say park.
yes, Candy currently serves on the Park Advisory Board, not the Tree Advisory Board. I was like, oh, she hasn't been coming to the meetings. No, Candy currently serves on the Park Advisory Board, and is now interested in also joining the Public Art Committee. And I'll just note, I appreciated Candy's application for talking about sort of that it may be good to have someone who's on both as kind of a nexus between parks and public art, and those two kind of go hand in hand. So, and I also, as a side note, would really want to give Candy a shout out for providing some wonderful homemade treats to our State of the City address. So, thank you, Candy. But with that,
Not persuading your vote at all.
it's tough to choose between all the applicants we got. Is there a motion on this one?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Salsa, seconded by Councilor Nielsen to appoint Candy Garcia to the vacant term on the Public Art Committee. And I guess I should have mentioned, I know it feels like we just appointed people to the Public Art Committee. We did have one person resign
Right.
after appointment.
After
So that's
appointment.
why we're doing this again. So yes. Okay, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Okay, and Candy Garcia is also appointed. So I'll say one more time to you both and to anyone watching and to Brad, we are very grateful for our city of volunteers, for people who step up and give back to their community. Happy to have you be a part of that. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing the work you'll do over the years to come. Not to unceremoniously continue, but now we'll move on to the League of Oregon Cities Spring Conference, and y'all are welcome to stick around or leave, whatever you want to do. I've been talking a lot. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Chelsea drafted this memo. I'm going to let Chelsea take the lead on this one.
Oh, sorry, it does say Chelsea at the top.
That's fine.
Apologies.
Yes, so the 2026 LOC Spring Conference is coming up in Pendleton in April. Generally, we just ask council to let us know who is wanting to attend, and then staff will coordinate with you, AKA Crystal, usually, on lodging and getting you signed up and everything. I did note in here just the budget and where we're at currently in the council budget for the education and training and travel and meals, and then put the registration rates for this year. So we're just looking for some direction on how you would like to handle that. I did look back in the past, and Chris probably knows more about this, but he wasn't here to pick his brain, but it looked like there were some years where we haven't attended. I'm not sure how long they've had the spring conference. I think they had a different type of session before, so it's fairly new. And generally, it was Chris and the mayor mostly attending. I think one year there was an additional council member that went. So it's up for your discussion and direction on how you'd like to handle that.
And I'll just note, as it says in there, we are a little over budget, but that was in part because it was the 100th year conference last year, and so we made a point of trying to get everyone to go, and we had increased the budget accordingly. So the fact that we're over budget isn't like a alarm bell going off. I think that was sort of a one-off.
Overall, the budget is healthy on the
Yes,
bottom
yes,
line.
yeah. So do you need us to volunteer right now, or are you just saying like email you in the next week or so if you want to go?
Last time before the LOC conference, when we talked about this, the council just said that you'd have a quick discussion about who was planning to go or who was available to go, just so we could kind of divvy that out. I think between the two LOC conferences, if all 7 council members want to go to both of those conferences, we just need to budget accordingly. But the conversation was you can spread that out a little bit, and maybe if you would go to one, if you'd go to the other, then maybe next year you'd skip and go this. So we're just putting on here because you asked us to bring it back, so you could all have a conversation about who was intending to go and who was not going to be able to.
Yeah, I guess, do we want to talk about this tonight? If people know what they're up to, the registration also doesn't open until February 5th, so we could continue the conversation at our January 26th meeting and still give staff time to register.
Mayor, why don't we do this? If you're interested in going, why don't you reach out to Crystal? And then when we get to the end of the month, if it looks like we got more than 3 of you,
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
bring it back.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works. Okay.
Yeah, just reach out to Crystal if you're interested in going.
Say scholarships close on January 3rd.
That was the other thing, was registering.
We've not traditionally applied for the scholarships from here. There's a lot of small cities that really don't even have a budget item to conferences. So I feel a little guilty taking money from a city that has one person that could go if they got a scholarship when we've got money for like a few people to go and we're wanting additional to go. So I'd kind of discourage us from leaning on those scholarships and leaving for the cities where they're just trying to get like, a mayor or a council member to be able to go.
So I'll note that one of the questions is like, will you not be able to go if you don't get those
Yeah,
scholarships?
I did look through the scholarship and have wording so that they can prioritize them.
Be as equitable as
Yeah,
possible.
the only reason that I put it there is that the league has encouraged
Yeah.
that they have a very strict matrix system and sometimes we have extra funds that we're not awarding, and it can be something small. It's not just the conference fee. They
Sure.
sometimes have a scholarship to attend
Like a workshop.
a workshop or something, so it varies, but we can.
I think it's worth applying.
And I want to just go on record and say, I love that you're all willing and able to go to the conferences. I strongly encourage it because I think you learn a ton, right? I mean, they're very valuable. We don't give you a lot of perks for being on the city council. If we can afford for you to go to a room and get some meals and get some great education and some good experience, I think it's the least that we can do. So by no means do we mean to dissuade you from going. We would love for everybody to go. We just need to know budget-wise what the plan is so that we can plan accordingly. So I strongly encourage everybody to be able to go, let us know, and then if it looks like it's gonna be an item we need to know in the budget, like I said, we'll just make mention at the end of the month on who all's planning to attend, and we'll go from there. We'll make it happen, so.
And I'll just say, per our conversation at our retreat this weekend, there's also no, like, if you can't make it, that's fine. It's not a make or break thing. But yes.
Similar programming as the previous, like, is it a different?
Yeah, fewer breakout sessions or
Okay.
fewer like variety. Everybody kind of does more similar things. It's just
Yeah.
a little bit smaller, definitely lighter attendance,
Yeah.
but similar, yeah,
topics
some
and
breakout sessions, your main sessions with everybody together.
Information.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I went in here, I think. So it's good. It's definitely smaller in good and bad ways. Like, I think it's nice because I feel like you can get to know people a little more and kind of like, learn from other cities' experiences a little more. But yeah, there's less breakout sessions and everything like that. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything on that, or okay. So if everyone could, if you want to go, email Crystal before our next meeting, maybe by the Wednesday before our next meeting, if possible, whatever that would be. The 21st, next Wednesday. And if we don't hear from you, we're just gonna assume that means you aren't interested or able to. So, and then if we get a critical mass, we'll talk about it, but if only 2 people write back, we'll just send those 2 people and not worry about it. Okay, great. Next up, we have our second quarter strategic plan report. And this is presented by our city manager, who will walk us through any of that.
Yeah, I just figured it's been such a long time since we talked strategic plan. Time tonight, we're coming off the retreat from Saturday, where we talked a lot about strategic plan going forward. But this is just second quarter review for this. So this is October, November, December. And in bold are kind of any of the changes there. Major changes from the first quarter's report is some additional information on page 73 or page 2 of 10 of the report on the work with the visioning process. So some good updates there. And then the other big update is on the property at 14th and Main Street. They found some, not just 3 tanks in the ground, but 3 very big tanks in the ground. Much bigger than what they had originally thought was going to be there. And so that's going to cost us a little bit more money to for them to have removed, and all the slurry, everything that's inside of those also has to be properly disposed of. So there's more cost there. We did a not to exceed $20,000. I've already signed off on that. Profits of pulling them out. So I don't know what the total figure on that will be yet. We'll get the final invoice, but it's all based on their actual time and materials. So, and then that site, as far as I know, will be pretty well set up. They've left a pretty good lip where the asphalt kind of meets the gravel area. So either I'm going to have them come back, fill it out, or we'll have Public Works drop some rock in there and level that out. Just somebody driving through there at night, they don't hit a cliff or go off of a cliff. Yeah. Or walk off a cliff or whatever. So anyway, we'll get it fixed up so it's a little bit more safe for people to be on. And then we'll be, as we'll talk about later today, ready to move into the next phase of what's going to happen on that property. So any questions on the report or any of the other updates in there?
I just have one question for the vision program project. I see the the cost of the consultant, about 100,000. We got the $75,000 grant. We had budgeted 80,000. Do you have an idea, like, what the total cost of the project will be, like, in addition to the consult? I'm just trying to think how much of that 80,000 will be not spent.
Almost all of it's going to be just the consultant fee.
Okay.
We're spending a little bit of money on this kickoff event, but outside of that, everything else the consultants run with it.
So we'll probably save at least like 55,000.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions about the strategic plan updates?
I do feel like we're in a really good shape to get everything done. There's a couple items we're still working on. End of town signs came in quite a bit spendier than we'd originally anticipated. So we're kind of funding there. And then we're still working on security cameras at the park to make some improvements. We've already put signage up, letting people know that they're being recorded. We don't have the cameras up recording them yet, but they've been warned. They're being warned. So.
I do feel like we should have a update under invite developers to work with the city to develop affordable housing.
That's updated elsewhere in there.
Okay.
I will say I did talk to Danny with Commonwealth today. So that's a more recent update even than what's in here. We have I believe the end date of our engagement agreement with them is the 26th of January, maybe the 29th of January. There's 2 built-in 60-day extensions. And so I'd like to do at least the first 60-day extension to that agreement. He's literally writing up a purchase agreement right now. We had a few questions around details on that. And so I anticipate I'll have that even by the end of this week. And it's just going to take a little bit of time to review that and go back and forth. When I get it somewhere where I think it's acceptable, then I'll bring that back to the city council, review it. So that'll just take a little bit of time. So do a 60-day extension, and then we'll get into the purchase agreement, and then that will lock us in for whatever the terms of that agreement are. So the language in the contract is that the developer and city manager can do that 60-day extension. So I'll just do that tomorrow by email if the council and the council have any reservations on moving forward with Commonwealth. Okay. No other action needed unless anybody's got any other comments.
Great. Thank you very much. And next up, we have the review of the potential RFQ for 1348 Main Street, which is our urban renewal agency owned lot 14th and Main Street that we previously talked about, kind of where we want to go with that, and talked about maybe going in a similar direction as Dallas and putting out a request for proposal around partnering with a private developer to build a mixed use sort of landmark building on that site. So the city manager prepared this RFQ as the first step in that. Do you want to walk us through kind of what the process is?
Yeah, so let's turn, as much as we're tempted to jump into it on the first page, let's jump back to page. Back. 104. as the mayor said, the RFQ isn't like necessarily legally required, so there's not like state mandates on timeframes or any of that. The RFQ is really just dipping our toe in the water, kind of putting ourselves out there and saying, is anybody interested in our dream, our vision for this site? And so if we get some if we get some responses saying, yeah, we'd be interested in hotel, or yeah, we'd be interested in putting up some mixed use development there with commercial and residential. Here's our proposal, here's our background, here's what we do, here's examples of other things we've done, right? They give us the responses we're looking for in response to this. If we get 2 or 3 of those, and for example, say we get 3 back and they're all hotel related, well, then we'll probably work together to put an RFP, request for proposals together for a hotel on that site, because the interest we heard was 3 from 3 folks to do hotel. If on the other hand, nobody wants to hotel, everybody's talking mixed use, because they're all looking at hotel going, yeah, we don't see a hotel there, you guys are dreaming. But mixed use would be great, right? Commercial first floor, some residential, that'd be awesome, maybe even some affordable housing, here's our proposals. Then we're gonna draft an RFP, request for proposals for multi-use housing, commercial, and taking all the stuff about hotels and boutique hotels and all that stuff, right? So this is just testing the water, see where's the interest, if any. If we float this out there and come March and nobody's responded to anything, then I'll come back to you and say, we didn't hear anything, what do we wanna do now? Right? And we'll look at some other options that we can do for the site. So this is just to kind of guide that next step. So the RFQ, we're putting it out there, see who's interested. If there's interest, then we're going to do a formal RFP, request for proposals, send that out, get those back, and then there is some legal things per the state for proposals that we'll need to follow with time and time for challenging and acceptance and all that stuff. And that's when we'll actually make a selection. You will make a selection on here's who we heard from, here's how they scored, here's how we want to move forward. So we'll cover all that when we're drafting the RFP. We'll kind of, outline what the process for accepting the RFP would be, making selections.
Yep.
So don't want you to feel like we're jumping too far ahead by any means. This is really just getting it out there, going through it. I do recognize, and date-wise, that's kind of where we're looking, by the first part of March. I think that's a Monday, so give them through the end of that first weekend or last week of February, first weekend of March to get something back to us. You kind of see the proposals, what we're looking for. We're not asking for a ton of information from them, so within a month or so, that should be something that a qualified applicant should be able to get into us. So, yes.
So the RFQs advertised, how do people find about them? Is there a brief description you can tell us about how that is done?
Yeah, so it'll go on the website. It'll go out to the states. What do they call it?
We'll probably put it on DJC,
Yeah.
maybe Portland Tribune
Yeah.
too, just so we can get the word out. That's where the types of companies that would respond to it are looking mostly. The state does have also a procurement website opportunity, but generally, if you put it on there, they're always also looking at DJC and Portland Tribune. So that kind of catches both of them. Daily Journal of Commerce. So all building related things, architectural things are on there, but if you do the Portland Tribune, you also catch some additional kind of firms that might be looking there instead of the DJC.
Yeah, and any firm that's building this level and this type of development is going to be looking there daily,
Right.
multiple times a day.
You
So
just have people that look at that every day, literally.
that's their pipeline on
Yes.
future projects, right? So
Yeah, for a grocery store in Philomath, just kidding.
Where's the grocery store?
Not kidding.
I love it. No, I love it. Yeah.
So that's time frame, and then if we want to scoot back up to the front, I didn't necessarily want to go line by line, but we can definitely kind of go page to page, at least kind of theme by theme here, just so you're comfortable. Back on page 85, so this is just kind of the front page, one pager to look at. You see I did kind of shade in the area of blue there on the top. I mentioned later in the document about a property that might be interested in selling. If that happens, it's going to be outside of this agreement with the city. I'd say something like the city's, more than happy to introduce you to them, but after that, anything to purchase or anything is going to be between you and that property owner, and the city's not going to be involved in those negotiations. So we kind of stopped there. But I did just make them aware. I mean, we're 0.42 acres on our own. That blue piece is 0.11 acres. That brings up to 0.53. That's a good size piece of property to combine. Even the 0.42 is very doable and scalable for something like of this size. So anyway, that's the first page. Go right to the executive summary. I shared that rendering or AI image that I put together earlier. So that's kind of got some of the things that we'd be looking for and has kind of that Timbertown vibe to it. So a bunch of just kind of bullet points on the site itself and what's there. The community's vision, mostly referring back to the city council and our conversation that we had last month. A couple of statistics. And then just more generally about locating a hotel or mixed-use commercial residential building. A lot of this is geared more towards that boutique hotel, primarily because that's where Dallas was leaning, I think, and so it was easier to swap out their information for our information than to recreate this whole document. So it definitely leans that way. We won't get into details, but as you read closer in their hotel analysis, they actually hired a firm to come in and do an analysis, like what would actually work on this site, like financially, what would pencil out. And their consultant for that project determined that if you just did a, $60 night, $80 night, people passing through town would stop over and crash and then go onto the coast, it wouldn't pencil out, right? It's not big enough. There's not enough quantity there to make that work. So you'd have to target kind of more of a boutique, a little bit higher end hotel, even with some mixed use on the first floor. The upper floor would have to be kind of nicer rooms, really hitting those folks that were coming to like check out the wineries, check out all Sea Falls, check out the museum. It's that level of visitor you're getting. It's not people just passing through looking for a cheap place to stay for the night, right? These are people, like kind of a destination boutique hotel is what penciled out in Dallas. And I copied that over and made some presumptions that in Philomath it's going to be pretty similar just based on the size of the property more than anything else. So some assumptions were definitely made here. And again, anybody worth their grand is going to do their own background, their own research. This is just kind of prime the pump a little bit, if you will, and kind of get them thinking a little bit about Philomath, the surrounding area. The last two bullet points are a little more specific on not having enough retail space in town, so needing that commercial space. And then also new apartments not being built in town for several years. We got a big stack of them and then nothing again since then, right? So we've been another 8 years without any apartments being built in town. And, the need for those 1 and 2 bedroom smaller units still. A little bit on Southern Willamette Valley, just point out some points of interest. They're on bottom of page 88 and into page 89. Talk about Benton County, before I talk about location, proximity to I-5, proximity to Newport, Salem, Eugene Airport, PDX, again, trying to get that regional tourism kind of there. The average daily rate information from Benton County, I was able to pull some of the points around here around July, August peaking with Frolic and OSU events in the fall with football. A little more in the city of Philomath. What I believe is missing here that would probably be a good place to input about here is I didn't add a bunch of information about the streetscape project and the redevelopment we were already seeing in the downtown area. So I think that's missing here. That's something I would like to add in this area is add, probably at least another quarter or a third of a page on the streetscape project itself. Include some pictures, some of the nicer, newer pictures that we've got with the bioswales spilling over and with flowers, not with water. But just the nice looking downtown that we've got there, probably 13th Main, 12th and Main, that area. So I'll definitely add a section in there on the Philomath side. When I talked with this earlier with folks, it seemed like, we definitely don't want people to feel like downtown Philomath is dead. We need you to come and revitalize our downtown, right? That it's really more like we're already revitalizing downtown. We're already seeing momentum and we're inviting you to come and be a part of that, right? And join it and add to it. But we're not relying on somebody to come in and transform our downtown for us, right? We're already taking very proactive steps to do that. we're just got this one lot that you can come participate. So we're kind of hit down on what we're looking for. It could be a little bit more clear on some of that language as well on what we're looking for. Development incentives, we looked through those with Dallas, streamlined those down quite a bit, and tried to make it practical. The SDC thing on there is kind of what we would offer to any development, not just this development, but we just put it on the table. So again, try not to overcommit or overpromise to anything, which is the other TBD. Everything's on the table. Come and give us a proposal, and we'll see what we want to do. City inside information, it's a little more specific. I think that is my typo there on page 91. We did purchase property for more than $3. It's 300 and something. I just didn't know the exact number, so I'll go back and get that number and put it in there. And the 45 was an estimate. Again, I'll know that number a little bit closer here in the next few days as well. So those dollar figures need to be updated. We'll do that. Appreciate Steve Boggs posting this cool picture of the standard Chevron station back in the day. Pretty cool. Grab that off of his Facebook post. Go back over site and dimensions. This is the part where I kind of talk about the neighboring property a little bit. Existing curb cuts, zoning and allowed uses currently. Just so the council knows, just because this will change a little bit between now and then, the city's current zoning, downtown C1 commercial doesn't allow for hotels. The proposed zoning that we've been looking at with the planning commission like a year and a half, 2 years ago, we included hotels in the C1 district as well as the C2 district. We just haven't had the hearings and enacted that new development code yet. But by the time anything happens here, it will be an outright allowed use. So as far as this document's done, I just said we'd have to do a development agreement would be the way around that today. But again, by the time this becomes relevant at all, more than likely Planning Commission, City Council will have looked at that and hopefully made that change to allow for hotels in the downtown core. So we'll note there, parking's not required anywhere for commercial development in Philomath or residential for that matter. Talked quite a bit about building materials. That's right out of the code, minimum 3 building materials. And then talked about the timber town style of building that we'd be looking for and want to complement the other types of new buildings that are going to downtown and really be kind of continue to be a trendsetter, right? We've had some really nice new buildings come into town. We want to keep that momentum going. So there'd be very, very strong encouragement on the aesthetics of this building there at that corner. Building community support. I'm up to page 94. Transform downtown Philomath, captivating, welcoming, distinctive destination. Those 2 paragraphs come right out of the redevelopment plan, the area-wide plan that we did. So those 2 paragraphs are just copied straight out of there as far as sentiment. There was quite a bit of a pretty extensive survey that went out that backed up that report. But just wanted to kind of make sure that was reflected in here. Design concepts, again, Dallas had, I think, 4 different ones. We're layering it down to the 2, and they look very, very similar, just different colors. But one is commercial with a hotel on top, and the other is commercial with housing on top. Wow. Imagine how different those would look, right?
Is that still worth including?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because we want to point out that we're open to both, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. It mixes it up a little bit, but
Okay.
didn't want to let good graphic go to waste.
Different.
My favorite sentence, I think, in this whole RFP is on the top of page 95, the last sentence in the paragraph where I say, the city welcomes additional creative ideas about how to meet the community's vision at the site. For example, last 2 sentences. For example, it may be possible to mix housing, commercial space, lodging, and or short-term rentals within a single building, rectangular, square, or L-shaped, 3, 4, or 5 stories tall.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want to do. We're very interested.
Yeah, pretty much any building.
You have a pulse? We're interested.
We got land.
Just making it very clear, like, we don't have, this is what we want, right? It's like, this is what we want. Come tell us what it looks like, right? And we'll work with you. So just trying to make it very open. This second rendering, can you call it a rendering if AI did it? I think you still call it a rendering. Second rendering is a little more simplified, but still has that same kind of vibe. I think what we've been looking for, and frankly, compared to the other building on the next page, the kind of the original one, it's a little simpler, but I'll take this one, right? It's like, great, that'd look awesome on that downtown corner. So anyway, just to give them a look and a feel of, kind of the oversized entry, right? We don't want just a single door going into this thing. Big entry, commercial first floor, cool looking timber stuff. So that's all just conceptual. It did include some desirable design features. That's where it got a little bit fancier, like the clock tower, rooftop, restaurant downstairs, some of that kind of stuff. So definitely have kind of a minimum feel for what we're looking for, and then there's some additional things that we'd love to have them consider. Include a paragraph about for locals, families, and visitors. Want to make sure we're not just targeting people from outside the community, and mostly that's focused on that commercial space. We want this to be a community asset that the community feels like they can go and go to a nice new restaurant, have some new retail space they can go to, do some shopping locally in the downtown area that's walkable, and included the issue about or the request for like a public restroom that people can utilize during the day, right? So all that gets added in there. Again, we're just putting it out there and trying to float a bunch of ideas, right? And then the market analysis, I won't spend a lot of time here, page 97. Most of the hotel market analysis was completely stolen from Dallas. Similar market, similar sizes. I used their examples. I did put in our nearby attractions as opposed to Dallas's nearby attractions. But when you get over to page 98, you're talking about comparables. I used the comparables that they were using and used all of their figures. That analysis was just done like 6 months ago, 7 months ago. So still all felt very relevant. And again, short of us hiring our own consultant to do all that background for us, it was right there in black and white. So we stole it, used it with permission. Yeah. The housing market, very similar. Again, they looked at 4 recent, 3-story, 4-story apartments that were built with commercial on the first floor. No sense in us going out and reinventing this. Use their data, use their numbers, use their figures. No harm done. I think it tells a pretty compelling story for putting housing in Philomath. And then on page 100, definitely went harder on the retail commercial, obviously very Philomath-esque with some pictures of Philomath businesses, restaurants within walking distance, the college building with the museum. Talked a little bit again about development incentives and deal structures. I feel like I'm being a little bit long-winded, Mayor, so I apologize here. We already talked on page 103, process overview. That's why I talked through the RFQ, the RFP, then some type of developer selection. And deal structure, timing, I talked through. I think that's it. Yeah, conditions. So my big question for the council is short of the downtown safety streetscape project and really identifying some redevelopment in downtown. Is there anything else that's kind of missing in here that you think would be compelling to add in? Or is there anything obvious that's in here that maybe we should pull out because it doesn't feel very much in line with what you had presented or what you had in mind for that corner lot?
I think it's very well done, Chris. In fact, you stole the only thing I was going to say is about, how about the streetscape project?
Yeah.
Mentioned that, so that was the only thing I saw in that. Otherwise, I think this is a great place to sort of foundationally build on what we envisioned for that property.
Councilor Andrade and then Councilor Casey.
I have 2 things. One was, do you need to also include information about even though they're not like luxury places to stay, like I don't know when the RV park is opening, but, and the current motel that's here. I don't know if that's necessary, but
What was the second thing you said?
The motel.
Galaxy.
Oh, the Galaxy Motel?
Yeah,
I didn't hit it. I do have a paragraph in there about the Galaxy Motel.
okay.
Again, compared to the boutique motel, I just said different client, different type
Yeah.
of customers. Didn't see that those two would be competing with each other. So I make a little mention there. I'm very nice about it, but it just kind of separates there. And Dallas had a similar paragraph about, I think, two of the hotels that they had in or around town where it was like, they're existing, they're there, they have they have folks that come through as they're again passing through looking for a cheap place to stay, but this would be different, right?
Yeah. But,
So that's it, but the RV park, I think is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the second thing was, when thinking about amenities for people staying at a hotel, I wonder if it's worth mentioning the farmer's market, especially since it's not that far of a walk. But yeah.
Day of the weekend, go for a walk. Fresh.
Assuming they had a kitchen.
Yep, no, perfect. I'll add that in there, kind of there's a couple places where it kind of lists stuff, but I'll look into the Floma stuff.
Council Peaceman.
I think like we said on Saturday, I think the Frolic and Rodeo is our signature venue and our signature event. And so maybe giving that its own section and saying, going forward, having open air concerts, the rodeo itself, of course, that being kind of a destination for events may help draw the idea of.
Yeah, I'll say, I know we already talked about kind of highlighting the progress in our downtown. I think the Streetscapes project is a huge part of that, but I think even beyond that, just sort of, I talked with Chris last week about like making clear that we're not asking someone to come in and like kickstart our downtown. We have great momentum and we're asking you to come in and kind of be a part of that. Yeah. And I just, because I feel like we're in a good spot with that. And I think that's a good selling point. And then the one other thing that I know we talked about a little bit last week, but was just trying to balance talking about OSU or not in this, because obviously they're a big draw of people from out of town for, we talked about like parents weekend or move in, move out, graduation, all that kind of stuff.
Boring.
Right, yeah. But then I know Chelsea also pointed out just Corvallis has a like large kind of fancy hotel being built right now too. So we were trying to kind of toe the line between mentioning OSU or not mentioning OSU. But I don't, do people have any thoughts on like, because I guess that's also a little different because that might be more of like it's not like destination travel.
Yeah, I know those who in there specifically about
Football.
sporting events, graduation, and I have like other events or something like that. So I was going to add specific language about, I think after we talked, we were going to talk about like move in, move out, like start of semester, end of semester.
Yeah.
Because like that's another big time. There's an influx of people from outside the area coming to get kids moved in and stuff.
I would think that any company that is going to onto this is going to know that that these things are in play for coming in there.
Yes, here. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, it was just like the other hotel potential, and they're gonna know that and be looking for something that would fit this market here.
Okay. Counselor Nielsen, and then Counselor Crocker, are you raising your hand or are you just exercising?
No, I'm elevating my wrist.
I wonder about it. For asking her.
Okay, Counselor Nielsen.
I want to echo what Councillor Caseman mentioned. I think the Frolic is a big deal, and it brings in a lot of individuals from other areas, and to give them some individuals a cool place to stay, I think has its benefits, and seeing number-wise a little write-up on that. And then secondly, I think, we talked about the development of that North 13th kind of gathering area. That would be a block away from, to let them know
That's
that
true.
we're creating this gathering spot for community events that is less than a block from that location. So if there are concerts, if there are gatherings, whatever that evolves to, that would be really handy to,
Yeah.
right, such close proximity.
I wonder, Chris, if you could just mention, like, the city has major investments planned on, like, additional investments on, like, 13th and even like 12th and 11th with the streetscapes. I guess to the point again that, like, we're not,
Yeah.
this is an
Part of that
active,
discussion.
yeah, like, we got momentum here and it's still going. Okay. Anything else on this? The last thing I'll say, this is a very small thing. You mentioned we have a large 4th of July block party. I think it's a Memorial Day block party.
Dirt Road has 4th of July weekend. Dirt Road has their,
Because that's when we had Pride last year.
it's usually the weekend before 4th of July.
Did they start it?
We had a Memorial Day event, but we've also had the 4th of July event that Dirt Road does. We've not repeated the Memorial Day one.
Right.
Dirt Road's been doing that.
Any place, different date.
Yes.
Yes. I'm doing great. On that note,
You want to see this again? Do you want to make these changes and just get it out there? Okay. Will do. Thank you. Good feedback.
because it's just.
Yep.
Okay. Then, with that, I think we'll go back to our old business, which is the
Need a
review.
motion on it, Chris?
No.
Okay. There was one written, which is why I asked, but. All right.
No, you're good.
I got Crystal got consensus.
Yeah, you're in consensus, right, Crystal? Okay, then with that, we'll return to old business on page 13 of your plan on our discussion and review of proposed utility rates. And I'll say right off the bat, not to sully the discussion at all. I am really grateful for all of this information. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kevin, whoever else is a part of this. This is helpful, I think. There's also a little bit of additional context and information that I think would be good for the council to have before we make a final vote. And the big thing for me that I talked about with Chris just earlier today is, as we all know, a big driver of the need to potentially increase rates is the construction of the new water treatment plant. And because of engineering delays, we haven't even gotten a bid on the water treatment plant yet. And so my preference would be to pause this just until we actually have a number from a contractor to work with. Because yes, because we have the engineer's estimate in here.
Oh, yes, it's an estimate.
An educated guess.
Educated.
Yeah. But I think, as we all know, especially in recent years, there have sometimes been discrepancies between engineers' estimates and actual bids, above or below. And I would feel a lot more comfortable making this decision once we know exactly what we will be paying, as opposed to an estimate of what we'll be paying, because I know this is not a fun discussion. I know no one really wants to raise rates. I know we're asking a lot of the community, and I think my worst nightmare would be that we decide on a plan and then have to come back a couple months later and then have an whole new plan because we, got a different bid back or something like that. So I'll just say that's kind of where I'm at, especially because, and I'll have Chris chime in if I misspeak or anything here, but we've been told the bids the RFP for contractors for the treatment plant should be ready to go out next week.
Oh, okay.
At long last. I feel like it's at like the end of Lord of the Rings when Frodo's like taken away with the eagles. Anyway, so the
You're geekish, y'all.
yeah, you're right. It's it's not even that late. Yeah. Point is that we've been told that should be ready to go out next week. So then it's not like we would be putting this decision off for months and months and months if we wait to get some bids back before we decide on that. So for tonight, I still think it's worth going over this and talking about this, and if there is, we are gonna maybe wait, a month or so. If there is anything else that would be helpful in that month or so. Since we kind of conveniently have a little bit more time, but for me, I think this is all good information. There maybe is a little more detail on certain things that would be helpful, but I just think with the water treatment plant being the biggest piece of the puzzle here, I would feel a lot more comfortable putting our puzzle together when we have the biggest piece of it. So, yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Chris or Mike or Chelsea?
Just in addition, I guess that, when we started, we were supposed to do our utility rate study 2 years ago, and we delayed it because we wanted to wait till we got bids in for the treatment plant. We're ready to go out. So we delayed it, and we got a little bit of pushback from the community. It was like, hey, we're going to do this utility rate study. We want to do this third-party rate study. But we waited, and when we waited another year, well, then this year, it was the same pressure, like, hey, we want to do this rate study, and we feel the pressure too. It's like, we want to do the utility rate study, but out there, and at the time, we thought we were going to have the bids in and go out for bids and know what it is. So, when we started even the process of doing the utility rate study, we thought we were going to have these numbers. And, once we've gotten to this point and now we're kind of stopped looking back, it's like, yeah, we really don't know that number still just because that RFP process has been delayed and the engineering's been delayed. So I think it's wise on the mayor's part to kind of put a pin in this a little bit. Primarily on water, not gonna have as big of an impact on, the sewer and the storm. That's not really gonna change. So I think, again, if there's, well, in any, including water, if there's information that would be more helpful for the council to still get, then let's get that out tonight so we know what we can come back to you with. And we'll probably just come back to you at first part of February with whatever additional information would be helpful for you so that you're got a comfort level. And it may be middle February really before we get bids in, or even end of February before bids come in. So we're probably looking at like March before we're gonna have a number for you. So we're talking a couple of months before we're gonna actually know what that number is. But again, I think it's beneficial to know what the number is rather than, let me back up. We know that it's not $12 million for the water plant and the reservoir anymore. We know that number's gone up, right? The engineer's estimate is closer to 14 million, and I think it's 15.7 or 15.7 something. So we know it's close to 14 based on the engineer's estimate. We just don't know how close that engineer's estimate is. It could be $1 million off one way or another. So before we adjust all the rates and pull this out to the council and stepping permits, let's just make sure it's right. Now, we could move forward because we know, and I think this is where we were at, was we know it's going to be more, so let's get an increase out there and float it. And then a year from now or 18 months from now, if we need to adjust it up or down, then we can adjust it a year from now up or down. But we're only a couple of months away, let's just get the number, right? Let's get the number, get it right, put it in there, and then we can tell your constituents straight face. It's like, well, we know what the cost of the plant's going to be based on the bid that we just received. We base these rates off of that. It makes a lot of sense to me to just hold off, right?
Thank you very much. Really quick, just before, I don't know if Mike, if you wanted to add anything from your.
I can't, he said, but when I'm looking at the calendar, I'm just thinking, hey, how am I gonna do this to stay within the calendar? It's gonna be tight.
Yeah.
So what I'm probably gonna do is take the model that they got and tie it into my budget sheets.
Okay.
And so once I know these numbers, I can start
Tweak it.
tweaking and see how it goes. So it's like, it's doable. I mean, it's just gonna be tight. But like Chris said, if we had this next year, we'd be in a perfect world, but it's fair. But yeah, it would be good to get any questions that you have on the information that we've given you.
Yeah.
So we can bring that back. Because I know there's a couple items you wanted to add. And
Yes.
Chris went over it with me, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear from you guys.
Wonderful. On that note, Councilor Andrade.
Before we begin on this specifically, the reason for the delayed bid and like RFP going out for bid, was it just that West Tech was busy or like? I know part of it had to do with the timing of the reservoir, right?
The reservoir set things back for sure. I mean, that definitely we lost at least a construction season. We probably lost upwards of closer to a year, 8 months to a year, because of the issues with the reservoir slab there, and then having to get that repaired, and just getting through the legal hurdles and making sure that we were covered and we had an insurance policy to back us up should something fail in the future. So that definitely took our engineer out of commission on designing, because he was really running point on those efforts between us, getting the recommendation, working with the engineering firm out of Texas that specializes in concrete repair like that. He was running point on all those communications and all of that work. So it definitely didn't allow him to focus on, designing and engineering the plant. He was really set on just the reservoir at that time. We lost a little bit of time at the very beginning of the project. Right out of the chutes, because the Jefferson plant had some problems after it was built. And when we thought we were going to get a good start, we ended up having the engineer spending a little bit more time getting Jefferson fixed and their new plant up and going. We estimate we lost between 6 to 8 months from the onset of, like, when we first entered an agreement with West Tech to do the work to when they actually started. We were about 8 months behind from then. But from there forward, it's been mostly, I would chalk it up to the reservoir, and then just, I think the engineer would tell you that they're taking a lot of things into consideration on the front end and baking things into the RFP so that there's less work to do after the RFP goes out. There's less questions and concerns that will come up from the actual contractor, because it's all very clear in the RFP on what those requirements are going to be. That's taken more time, right? And I think that was experience gained from Jefferson, where they spent 8 months after it was even built, still working through issues with the design and everything. And so I think lessons learned from Jefferson was do all of that before you go out for bid, not after. And that meant instead of taking a year, it's taken longer than that, plus the delays from the reservoir. And just there's some time management there. I mean, I won't go too much into it. We have a great relationship with West Tech. They've done great work for us for a number of years. I don't think they had the appropriate resources allocated to this project. I think they were, splitting time with this project and other projects. So I don't want to totally second guess their month-to-month decisions or week-to-week decisions. But I can tell you that they are 100% all on board today. But I don't think that's been the case for the last 2 years, right? And so I'll kind of leave it at that. West Tech does great for us. They're kind of missing the boat on this one a little bit, and it's costing us money, and that's not good. We're keeping a very close eye on that, and I hope that there's not negative ramifications that still come from there, but there might be. So we'll see. I guess timing-wise, that's what I would chalk it up to.
Thank you.
In addition to about probably 20 other variables that have
I'm
had
sure.
an impact there.
I just wasn't sure if there was like anything that I had missed in my memory of like what had gone on, but maybe they'll give us a discount.
But I will say, I mean, we've fulfilled our contractual obligation for payment for them, so we've not made any more payments than what we committed to pay them. So they're spending time on their own dime at this point to finish this up. So it's their delays are hurting them for sure, as much as they're hurting us as well, in addition to hurting.
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if we just want to walk through this information that Mike put together, and if folks have additional questions or comments or conversation, we can kind of work through that. You'll see, we start with, he tried to just kind of answer the questions that folks asked. So you can see usage by type of property, the number of low income accounts, number of large storm drain accounts. We have some additional information on that in the back. And then you'll see the attachments around two-tiered system, what the costs for operations are, what the potential for FTE additions are, what the potential for capital projects are, and then how much of those are funded through SDCs versus rates. And as a reminder, that was all part of I think that was a relatively simple question that turned into a lot of documentation around what are the inputs. We've been talking a lot about the revenue, but what are the costs? And these are the costs that we're looking at. So that is another thing for the council to discuss. If there are costs in there that we don't think are immediately necessary or costs we want to trim back, that's an option. So I would encourage you to take those seriously. And then there's a few examples of what bills would look like for some of the largest customers. So the school district, self-storage, True Value, Timber Lab, and departments. Then some of the general information. So I think all the general information, everything until page 18, it's mostly a review. And then you can see there what it would look like for those. So I guess, does anyone have any like pressing outstanding things, or do we want to kind of just walk through this?
The only thing that I had noticed in this, great, I like the summary part too, of site. This is what we were looking for, and this is what we came back with. I think organizationally, the only thing that gets really confusing is we have what was before and kind of what is now and what could be, and it's a little disjointed in here. For example, in the chart, it says tier 1 and tier 2, but it doesn't say what tier 1 and tier 2 is. I think I could read into this that I think it's up to 6 and then it's 7 and over. It actually doesn't say that in the line item. You know what I mean?
You have the numbers.
Yeah, it just has the numbers, but it doesn't, and we're talking about, for example, it still says in here, Chris's recommendation, and rightly so, that the concern about the tiered system to begin with. So, but what we lost is, well, what if it's not the tiered system? What is that? Do you know what I mean?
I don't.
Having all of them side by side would be super helpful instead of having to look at it.
You said like a table of like, if we don't have tiers, this is what the like current cost with an increase without tiers, cost with an increase with the 2 tiers, and cost with an increase with the 3 tiers. Is that what
I
you're
can do
saying?
that.
That's kind of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And that would sort
I like
of
that.
tie everything together from what we began with.
Yeah.
That'll be the tiers for water.
Yeah. Yeah. Because nothing else changes.
Then it just becomes really super clear. You can compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
And I was trying to remember from last month, but I think the question from the council last month was to look at the 2 tiers. But I don't think it was the 0 to 6. Did it bump up from like 0 to 8 or 10? Or I don't remember what it was.
Exactly.
I don't remember the specific number. The intention was to not capture families in the lower tier, I think. I think it was 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 2, our average is 2 per person. That's what we use as our number.
I think that's why we had.
Go up
I
to
think
8.
it's probably also why we asked for the average usage.
Yeah.
To be able to kind of make sure that those 2 things line up. Like,
Is that the consensus 8?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
And I know Chris and I had also just talked about on page 33, just having an additional column there around what the current cost is.
Yeah, but that's the current budget operating.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, I mean, I'm sure you have that. I just, yeah.
it's small, y'all.
I know.
Get your guys out.
One of those accordion fold out things.
I remember those things.
So, then I get, please, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, since we were some
No,
particular.
that's great.
I was also curious about the rationale for the number of units that were used for each of the example purviews or the bills, I guess.
Something about the billings.
Yeah, well, I'm still talking about the same, like page 33 through 36. 6.
Look at those right there. Those are based on December, I think I may have put that December billings. So that's where the number came.
So these are actual
These are
billings.
actuals, yes.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that. I thought it might have been just hypothetical.
And I will come back on the next time. I'll show you what the actual billings were for each of those categories.
Okay.
So you can see, because I put it down as an actual billing down there, but if you want to see the breakdown. it
Yeah,
can be
when you
done.
said actual, I thought you meant current billing, like if you, or you.
Actual, this is what they used in those months. That's what we actually billed.
So I guess to clarify then, you said this is winter, what the winter would look like,
December.
December?
December,
Okay.
yes.
Counselor Crocker?
Yes, I would be interested in seeing the summer, July, I mean, both July and December, not just one. So we can see a better
Yep, okay,
cross-section
yeah.
of the actual costs.
I will do July and December.
Thank you.
Which would include irrigation, correct?
Yes,
July.
winter averaging.
I just wanted to have a little discussion about the costs. I think the other big cost driver is in part, potential addition of 3 FTE over the next, what would that be, the next 10, 8 years?
Page are you on?
On page 28.
28.
Page 28. So you can see that under this proposal, there would be a new estimate starting in 2027 that would be 100% funded through storm. And then there would be an additional new FTE in 2029 that would be split between storm, water, wastewater, and street.
Right.
And then another FTE starting in 2031 that would also be split out. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about that and if the council had thoughts on that. Or maybe Chris, if you wanted to talk about sort of why Public Works was asking for that and we can kind of weigh that.
Yeah, I can tell you for 2027, because Kevin and I talked about specifically, I mean, we looked this up today. Right now, we're spending just over 30,000, I think $32,000 is the line item for, well, it's the total for personnel expenses and storm today, this year's budget, 25, 26. So we're already spending 33, so this would be an increase there. And even then, it's really looking at, I mean, it's an increase to 1 FTE, but the reality is it's going from a third of an FTE to 1 FTE to deal with all of the storm-related things that we do throughout the city. That may not necessarily be that it's one employee only doing storm, but it's like 1 FTE worth that's doing storm. Still going to be made up of multiple employees that are having to help out with what we do today. It's just an increase. And that's just a direct reflection on the increase of workload that's there in storm. Some of it is stuff that is being done. Some of it is things that are going undone because there's not money to do. Some of it's stuff that the Public Works Director is currently doing because it's work that he's doing that if there was somebody more dedicated that could do it, they could do some of those reports and things. And honestly, some of it is stuff that, you know, if we budget $32,000 in personnel, but yet there's an issue with the storm channel that gets clogged or open ditch or something, and we have to go fix it, we're gonna pay employees to go out there and fix it, right? And so, you know, some of that stuff's, the work needs to get done. It's just right now, it's not an accurate reflection of the amount of work that is there in storm that has to get done. So that one's a little bit more immediate. The other positions are estimates based on expanding work that is going to get done. Those I can't speak to as specifically from what the Public Works Director inputted, other than to say that those were his estimates on when they would need additional capacity just to keep up with the workload that they've got at Public Works. So we could drill down on those a little bit further with Public Works Director during this time as well. see what those look like, because those are, those are expenses and they roll in. Mike, I don't want to put you on the spot. Did you have more in-depth conversations with Kevin on that prior
Not
to,
really.
or it was more, give
Well,
us,
here's the
I think we
number.
went to the public works director and said, give us a capital project list, give us your expectation for new employees over the next, 8, 10 years, give us that input, and that was the feedback that we got, so.
And the consultant built them based on current rates, so.
Yeah, okay. Do you have anything to add, Chelsea?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
think that, obviously a public works director knows what he's looking at for future. The stormwater is absolutely an issue. We are going to see retirements, soon, sooner than later in that department. And I think we're going to have a shift, and we're going to have a shift in just institutional knowledge, expertise. Like Chris said, the public works director, I think, is doing some of that work that could be transferred on to someone else so that that position can do other work that they need to be doing. So I think there is a capacity issue. Yeah, as far as the 2 additional employees, it does look like they're kind of generally just our utility workers that are allocated in a number of areas. And there's a need there as well. We currently have, we have the facility kind of park position that we recently filled, but all of the other employees out there do a little bit of everything in addition to helping with some of those other aspects. So I think that's just reflecting here, those splits. Yeah.
Councilor Joining?
So clarifying question. So employee 3, that's 100% storm. That is the total amount that will be in the budget that's spread out across multiple current employees. Or the current at that time for fiscal year 2027. It's not hiring a new person or hiring multiple.
It'll probably be a
people.
new person, but that new person's not gonna only do storm, right? They're gonna
Okay.
do
For
60% of their time in storm and 20% in street.
It's just all coming from storm
Yeah.
because of the way that the budget has been.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure since it
We're-
says employee 3 as opposed to person.
I had the same question. I think maybe instead of employee, think about like, we are buying 40 hours of work per
Right.
week
Right.
of storm-related projects. That might be completed by 2 people in a 1 week, it might be completed by 8 people in 1 week. It just kind of,
The reality is that even if you hire someone who's doing, 75% of their job doing that, you're still going to have a Gary and a Kevin that are probably have part of their time allocated. They're still going to be working in there as well. Thanks.
Yeah.
We've identified that that's been out of balance for a little bit, right? And that
Yes.
part of what we're doing here is correcting
Yeah.
that, making sure that we have hours allocated to dealing with the increasing storm load, right? And it was not, so.
And that is total personnel expense, so that's salary and benefits all
Yeah.
lumped in there, right? It's not just the salary, so that's your total personnel expense for the year. Like I said, that one I feel pretty comfortable with. The others I'm comfortable with because Kevin said he needs them, but I can't tell you the specifics there other than it just, when we told him to tell us what he was gonna need for employment, looking out 10 years, those were the numbers he gave us, and I trust those numbers. Kevin's just not here to speak to those right now. But again, we can reach out to him and maybe have him write something out for us on.
And I guess not to be crude or flippant or something, but like, I guess I'm just trying to understand the numbers that we gave to the consultants. Was that like the wish list? Was that like the bare minimum list? Was that I just sort of where on the spectrum of like,
How much?
Bare minimum in my world,
okay.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't exotic or anything more.
No, and I don't think anything in here is exotic, but just like, is that,
We needed this to get back to normal.
okay.
Yeah.
We kind of cautioned everybody, if you're gonna give us numbers, give us what you need, not
Yeah.
not a wish list.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think it's needs and the reason I would say needs is not just because I trust the public works director to tell us what he needs, but also the fact that the danger is you don't fund it, you don't build in the model. We get 3 years in the model and we need an employee and we haven't funded,
Right.
we haven't set accordingly. So I think it's being conservative to say, here's probably what we're gonna need is what we're gonna need. And if we don't plan accordingly, then we're gonna be behind the ball, right? And then we're gonna be going back out to constituents again 3 or 4 years saying, oh, we didn't account for this new employee that we need all of a sudden. It's like, well, didn't you know 3 or 4 years ago that you were gonna need an employee 3 to 5 years from now? We did, we just didn't put it in the budget because we didn't wanna, whatever. So I will say, as far as the math goes, what we hire in 2029 and 2031 doesn't have an impact on what the fees are gonna be
Yeah.
in 2027. Right? It has an impact on what the fees are going to be in 29 and 31, but it doesn't change what we're asking the city council to look at rates for increases in storm today. That's impacted by this 2027 number, right? So those future hirings, we're not saving up to have that, right? Those future hirings, we'll see rate increases proposed for those future years when the hirings need to happen.
But just like inflationary, not like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be, right, they'll
Yeah.
step up over time,
Right.
but, yeah.
Any other thoughts on personnel? Then I get, the last thing I just wanted to follow up on was, I know we had talked about whether like building up reserves was built into this at all. Did you have any follow-up on that?
The numbers are part of the O and M number. Those are the numbers that we will be setting aside to be used for projects.
Where,
On page, starting on page 20, on the bottom of page 22, are the numbers that are reserved.
okay,
And you'll see that on each one of the budgets, each one of those transfers out, they're to consider the reserve numbers.
okay. So does that money go, I'm assuming some of that money goes to like land building equipment for building things.
For building things, for construction projects, yes, and then
Okay.
built into the CIP,
Yeah.
which is rolled in.
Yeah, but then I guess what I'm asking is, like, I know we had talked about, and we're talking about later tonight, having like a reserve in each enterprise fund. Is that also, so would this fund both like infrastructure projects and having like a backup reserve?
Terry fund.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay,
That's, right, we're gonna move all the reserves into the land building and equipment for proprietaries.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's
If we
no,
didn't, we decided not to.
Yeah,
reserve
yeah.
the Reserves because of.
right, I just want to make sure, so there's no saving up unappropriated, like, future expense in here. Everything in here is going to a earmarked cost.
It's gonna be earmarked.
Okay. There's no like rainy day fund.
Nope.
Okay.
In the water fund, it's just a one-liner. If you look at the sewer fund, page 25, on that one, it's actually broken out. You can see it's going to land equipment for equipment. So that's gonna be your trucks, vac trucks, all that stuff. Infrastructure is your actual pipes, office equipment, your laptops, scanner, block planner, all that stuff. And then for a public building, that's gonna be the new roof that needs replaced, the HVAC system needs redone, whatever. So it kind of breaks it out there a little bit more, and you can see the money going into LBE, but it is all assigned. And I kind of have that question too, is like, is that plus kind of a rainy day fund? And this isn't accounting for that. I think I maybe hinted that last month was, do you start putting money aside for a rainy day while it's raining? Or do you do that in the good years, and then when it's raining, then you pull out in that fund? And so what I've learned tonight is that, yeah, this isn't putting money to LBE for projects and also to build up a rainy day fund. We're not building up a rainy day fund with these proposals. So that's not, I think I kind of teased last month, that's maybe something we could look at not funding, is some rainy day fund right now. But that's not built into this. That's not there. We don't pull anything out of. Thanks for that, Mike.
So any other questions or information that we should have? Yes, Councilor Salsa.
So, just to take, for example, our friends at Timberland laminate, right? That's the one that's gonna catch a lot of the eyes because you can see it.
Page 34.
But that's because if that has nothing to do with water, that has to do with the storm.
Yeah.
Impervious surface.
So I just want to point that out, that sometimes that kind of gets lost in translation here, because in the commercial side in particular, that's going to be substantial in some cases. You know, where they were paying $484 and then that's a jump up to $2,100. But that has little to do with the water side, it's all on the storm side because of all the changes at the state level that trickled down to here. Am I on track with all that?
Correct, it's sure.
What Mike said is he'll come back and bring these back, and he'll have the December and the July 2025
That's right.
bill broken out by each of those
Yeah.
and the total. So you can see, is it
You
water,
can see what happened there.
storm?
Yeah.
And we'll do that for Mike will do that for each of these.
So that's good. Yeah. Again, that just makes it very clear that.
And then on that, on 35, for the residential high use, again, we'll go from, instead of 0 to 6 units, we'll go 0 to 8. So that's we'll make that fix there. We'll do that calculation.
Right.
And then on the back page, it's the low residential low use and same thing. So
And increasing the low use, correct?
Yeah, the threshold. To 8 units.
right.
Okay. Anything else on this? Speak now or no? Oh, yeah, please.
What I meant was the low usage also for the tier 1 is only 3 units. That seems like a 1 person kind of the example on here.
I think when we looked at the average
Yeah.
use for winter, that was close to 3. And so that's,
Oh, just
All right,
kidding.
yeah, all right.
so we wanted to show that low average.
Okay.
So
Okay. Anything else?
excuse me.
Okay. I thank the council and staff for our many robust discussions on this topic. And I promise we will come to a conclusion soon. So thank you all for, you know.
The picture's getting way clearer.
Yes,
I
yeah.
appreciate the work that's done.
And I hope our constituents know that we're taking this decision very seriously, really trying to make sure we are turning over every possible rock. So we will be back with more, hopefully with a bid on a water treatment to factor into it. Yes, with that, let's move on to ordinances and resolutions, which we'll skip ahead to page 109 on our light evening meeting. And this is, as was just sort of hinted at, the policy for fund balance, contingencies, and reserves. Mike, do you want to walk us through this?
I sure do. Spencer, Council Councilor Erwin, did you want to say anything? You're the chair.
I think minus what's included in the plan, which is more than I can report, you might be able to, I think my plan was better. But I would just like, I think we did kind of start with the most complicated configuration and decided relatively quickly to make it a little simpler, but also make sure that we were doing our due diligence to have reserves where appropriate. As we hinted at earlier, we didn't create a reserve on reserve funds because it felt extra and like budgeted funds weren't going to get an additional but extra balance, and maybe that city manager said maybe if it gets real sunny out, we'll talk about funding a rainy day. But for right now, we just wanted to make sure that we were accruing monies and not have to borrow, not be in a situation you need to borrow money or other, or hope, less likely to be anyway.
It's a new accounting technique for these budgets. I didn't say that to the finance and admin committee. Right, basically, we came down to that. You guys said the last thing is basically new accounting for Mike. And that's what this is. I don't know an easy way to go through it except just to say, okay, we have now a policy that we're going to build that sets up something for council in the budget committee to review each year. If you go to page 116, we're going to start building our ending fund balances. Everybody's familiar with the ending fund balance. You're familiar with the general contingency. We have a new line item. The budget law came out with a couple of years ago called the reserve for future expenditures. We're going to hold that one. Finance admin committee figured we're just going to do that there. That'll be the sunny day fund when we're going to fund it. Because when you calculate your ending fund balance, your general, your contingency, and your reserve, the last thing left over is the reserve for future expenditures. So there probably won't be funded until we have a whole bunch of money, which, that'll be the sunny day.
Looking forward to that.
Anyway, this thing, we're gonna work on this first year, for the general fund, we'll shoot for a 10% ending fund balance. And contingency will be 4% after that. So these are the percentages. They'll be the self-supporting funds, or the street, water, wastewater, and so on. The funds by transfers is the land building equipment. We did have the reserve for future expenditures attached to the self-supporting funds in the transfer funds, but like we said, we felt, maybe felt it was redundant. So we just kind of parted out of that. So that's basically the big thing. This is going to be, you'll see this in your budget documents when we build the budget coming, and I think we're scheduled to get something in mid-March, or mid-April, I should say. Is there any questions on this fine reading that you have in front of you?
Will this make your job easier?
It will be transparent. It'll be nothing to it. It's already there.
Okay,
I've
great.
already built this in.
Oh, well, wonderful.
I carried this over from Newport.
Okay,
So we figured out over there.
but you're a fan of this.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It's a good tool. I can tell Chris, it's like, yeah, he's always wanting 12%.
Yeah.
I think, but we get, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay.
We will see that as part of your budget document.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's still there'll be nothing to it.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 26-01, adopting a policy regarding the city's financial reserves, contingencies, and unappropriated ending fund balances.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Salsa, seconded by Councilor Irwin to adopt resolution 2601, a resolution of the Philomath City Council adopting a policy regarding the city's financial reserves, contingencies, and unappropriated ending fund balances. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Resolution 2601 is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
I'm guessing maybe Crystal, who made the cover. Look at that. Me too. Okay, and then next up, we have our water management and conservation plan resolution. And this was something that we were hoping to get to in December, but our meeting was running long, so we carried it over to this. Since Kevin's not here, Chris, do you want to give any brief summary of this?
One, we're required to have them by the state. Two, our strategic plan said we would update ours. And three, we updated it according to the state standards. It's already been submitted to the state and approved. This is just a way of resolution for the city council because we're replacing our old one with the new one. So not really looking for any comments on the document itself. It's there, it's meeting all the state standards. Generally, it's a good document. Lies out, what we're gonna do in our conservation plan. Should we start having shortages of water in the Marys, droughts, any of that type of thing, so. Excuse me, spells all that out. So yeah, just looking for a resolution to get this adopted and hopefully we never have to follow it. The water will just keep flowing
But I'm glad we,
there when we need it.
Councilor Caseman.
I move to approve Resolution 26-02, adopting the updated Water Management and Conservation Plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Caseman, seconded by Councilor Nielsen to approve Resolution 26-02, a resolution adopting the updated water management plan. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 26-02 is adopted unanimously. Now that brings us to our reports of boards, commissions, committees, council liaisons, and staff. And I appreciate you starting to break out. We have council liaisons and then we have management report. So we'll start with our council liaison reports. Would anyone like to jump in? Any fun updates? I know it's been a quiet last month. But it was pretty quiet. Councilor Crocker?
The PCS has just repaired their big freezer. It was a $20,000 project, but it is complete thanks to some of the work donated by people that understand that sort of stuff. They are continuing to see a raise in need, but things are looking reasonably well. The community is supporting well. I believe Teresa and I are working together for a March food drive to help support those efforts. That's my report.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll share for my roles that I am probably, I don't think I've gotten confirmed yet, but going to be joining the executive committee for the COG because Mayor Charles Mon of Corvallis stepped off of the executive committee and they have to have someone from Benton County, and I'm the only other person from Benton County that regularly showed up to the meetings. So therefore it's me now.
Winner, winner.
There we go. But that's all. It's going decently well, especially after the federal shutdown ended. They've been able to kind of get their operations back to normal. The school district is back up and humming after winter break. I know this isn't exactly my role as a liaison with the school district, but I visited the middle school to talk about the If I Were Mayor contest this year, and then had to postpone. They had some schedule changes, so I had to postpone the visit to the high school, and still working out some of the other ones, but get those done this month. And then I also wanted to share Dr. Len Cerny from the high school shared some news with us that in the U.S. News and World Report's rankings, Philomath High School was ranked number 12 out of 340 Oregon high schools. So, and it was exactly, and it was the only one in the top 12 outside of the Portland metro area. So, not to pile it on to the Corvallis School District, but I'm very proud of our wonderful schools here. And then I have some more data for you all from the Fire and Rescue District. They just compiled all their numbers, and I know this is something one of our esteemed counselors used to do a lot of, but over the last year, they responded to 1,130 calls for service, which represents a 3% increase year over year and a 33% increase over the last 5 years. And it's their highest ever call volume. And over the last 5 years, their calls per day have risen from 2.1 to 3.1. So an additional call every day. And then they also shared that their response, despite all that, their response time to calls continues to decrease. In the past 5 years, the average response time went from 1.8 minutes to 1.35 minutes for all calls. And across the full district, the average response time continues to be under 6 minutes for all calls. And 81% of the total call volume was medical calls. So despite them being called the fire department, they are mostly the lift assist and other. Yeah. No, yes, they're heavy on the rescue side of fire and rescue. And then there were 914 medical calls, 216 fire calls. And I guess for the first time this year, the majority of their calls were within the county area within 3 miles of the city.
Right. So basically almost in the urban growth boundary.
Yeah. So that's a new thing. And then they provided 92 assistants to other departments, including conflagrations. And they provided 43 calls for aid to the Corvallis Fire Department and received 9 calls from the Corvallis Fire Department in aid. So you're welcome again, Corvallis. So anyway, I just thought that was great data to have. We're very grateful to have our wonderful fire and rescue district here. Yeah.
We, when I started, just FYI, when I started 11 years ago, we were barely making 1 call a day.
Wow.
So we've gone from 1 call a day to 3. Now, when I say 3, remember that's the average.
Right.
Which means some days is 0 and some days is 13. Yeah. Just back-to-back calls and we're just running our wheels off. Or frequent that we're getting 2 and 3 calls simultaneously. So that's quite the deal.
And the fact that call volume has increased by 33% and response times have decreased by 33% that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, and that's a transition between a mostly volunteer fire department and now combination career volunteer.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yes. This week's chamber luncheon.
Yes.
We have new mayor coming and doing the city of Philomath presentation to that. It'll be a really good gathering. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure it'll be well attended and I'm sure Mayor McMorran will do a great job. So appreciate that.
And we have been told it is sold out. So watch out. Yeah.
Also, the coronation for the Philomath Frolic is also this
Saturday.
Yep.
And on that note, we do have a counselor coffee this Saturday as well. I didn't pull up the registration, so I don't know who's registered.
I am.
Wonderful. We got at least 1 taker.
Yeah.
And then I think it's still happening, although I haven't seen any promotion. Jeff Merkley has a town hall, I think, on Sunday at 3 p.m. I'm trying to make sure because his staff emailed last week being he's postponing some of them, but as of now, the town halls scheduled for next week are still planning to go forward. Okay, good. So 3 p.m. at the Philomath High School auditorium for a town hall with Senator Jeff Merkley, which I love that for some reason Philomath is just the place to do your Benton County Town Hall now, but
More responsive.
I think so.
Probably the school, I should say.
Yes.
Very responsive.
Oh, I see a big hand up on the screen. Councilor Crocker.
Sorry. I just wanted to report on the senior group. I think we wrote an article in the paper, but in December, we had 2 meetings. We had one at Maxtivity and one at the fire station. And I want to just compliment Counselor Salsa. on an amazing, he was our guest speaker. He taught us all about extinguishers. And we learned how to pull the pin and how to point them. He also explained the triangle of the three needs for a fire to exist: oxygen, fuel, and heat. And if you take away one of them, the fire dies. So it was super, super educational. It was very well appreciated. Everybody there felt like the whole community should hear him teach, because he's such a good teacher. We also had one of the owners from Bashful Bob's come and talk about senior safety locks and doors and different things you can do to make seniors safer. So it was a very successful month, and this month we're having one tomorrow, I guess. I won't be there. Yeah.
Wonderful. I also, and I can't find my information on it, but I remember that I was going to mention this information that I don't have. Sergeant Bowers, I think, or he won an award. Do you know about this?
Blake?
Yes, from like a victims advocacy.
Yeah, we're doing a write-up. It'll be in the newsletter, so I don't have all the details. Look for it in the next newsletter
Okay.
with a photo.
Okay, I promised Ashley at the fire department that I would mention it. So yeah, one day. And thank you, Blake. We'll talk about it more next time. Any final council updates? Okay. Then management report is on page 121. I think we talked about a lot of this with the strategic plan updates, but anything from our management team members here you'd like to highlight?
I'll just speak in for Public Works. Appreciate the work that the tree board did. If you haven't heard or didn't read the article in the news yet, with the ash out in front of the library, that's going to be getting taken down January 22nd, and back and disposed of. So pretty sad. Already having some conversations about a replanting, maybe around Arbor Day. Don't have the details on that quite yet, but anticipate that'll happen in the spring. Get something new planted there. There is a informational sign out there in front, so people in the library know that the library staff have been contacted. So they've got some information and direct people to the A-frame sign with information on it as well. So yeah, I just again appreciate Brad's article in the paper and the Philomath News, and that was really good and covered everything and showed the amount of consideration that the tree board put into that. I mean, if there's any way to make that not have to happen and save that tree, they were all looking for it. And based on recommendation from the three arborists involved, that was the path forward. So, but short of that, no, just happy to answer any questions council might have on staff work.
It's not a question. I just thought this was an appropriate thing to share. As you all know, we just reappointed Gianna Bernardini to the tree board, and she wasn't here this evening. She emailed me just a little bit ago about what she's been up to this evening. She just helped plant 2 trees on South 15th Street as part of our tree planting project, and just before that helped rebuild the path to the heritage cottonwood tree right before that. So she's been spending all evening doing tree board and tree related work. And she now says, I'm going to go swallow a handful of Advil and lay down. So thank you, Gianna, for all of your commitment to our tree.
Y'all reappointed her.
So I'm going to send her an email right now. Thank you for it.
There's one more thing. On page 142 in our packet, there was a recommendation by, I think, the auditor.
Oh, yeah.
Could that be explained in a way that I would understand? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This time, she takes in the checks for the invoice, for the billings. she deposits the checks. She can do adjustments. They want that the adjustment part segregated out. She shouldn't be doing that if she does the billings and she applies the cash. Does that help you there? Because that's what they're talking about there. Then the other part is the bank reconciliations. That's Chris and I need to get together and go over that. That's what they're talking about there. Does that help?
Now, is that something that we're going to address or something we're not going to consider?
We're not going to consider it because Miss Diana cannot do an adjustment without my signature. So I don't know why they don't take that into consideration.
We just don't have staffing that
Right,
alert
right.
our city.
There is a check, and so she can't do that with.
She doesn't make those adjustments until she has my signature.
And just for context, I'll say I just went to the fire district board meeting earlier this afternoon, and they had the same thing in their audit, and their auditor was there and was like, "You don't need to do anything about that."
You just have to put it there.
Sorry about that.
No, it's a great question.
Okay. Can you?
It's a good recommendation.
And one that we would like to do someday.
But if we have things in place, like her, right, your signature, you talk with, so that we have things in place to cover that, and it's not just, well, oh, well,
Yeah,
that's a good thing to know as well.
Absolutely.
I know what she's doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Good question.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? Okay, then our next meeting is on January 26th. And sorry for any confusion today. We will have an executive session on the 26th, 5:30. And then I think just a very brief regular session, at least is what we're planning for now. But things can happen in a week or two to add to that agenda. So it'll be mostly the executive session at 5:30. And then maybe a little bit of business afterwards. And we're planning the city manager will probably be out that day for a personal issue. Not I want to say issue. For personal business.
I'm having surgery on my toe.
Kind of a
Yes.
celebration, honestly.
So I think Chelsea and our attorney will help lead that.
As much fun as it was for me to be here at your meeting, I probably will be enjoying life elsewhere.
Yes.
Are all invited to participate in the food, sorry, Diane, but we're all, I'm inviting them to the food drive on the 7th and on the 14th. The 7th, we're distributing those doorknob hangers to.
Of March.
Food and March 14th and March 7th. Saturdays, hopefully we get enough volunteers, it'll just be 9 to noon, 9 to 1. So please support. It's a good thing.
And we want to remind everyone that you all are welcome, including everyone watching out there, to our Philomath Visioning 2050 kickoff celebration this Thursday at the Scout Lodge starting at 7 p.m. So hope to see everyone there. It's going to be a good time.
It's gonna be a great
It's going to
time.
be so fun. It's fun. We're having fun. It's fun.
It's gonna be the place to be.
Government has fun sometimes.
Quote me on that 3 times, Brad. 4 times. Fun. Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
Crystal and Chelsea and I met again today to kind of go over some last details, and we weren't 5 minutes into it. We were all just kind of smiling ear to ear. So it's gonna be fun.
Good.
So-
Nice to see people show up.
Yeah, so everyone come.
Yes. Looking at you. Okay.
Thanks for staying.
I know.
You're right.
Volunteer, I'm gonna be here.
God love you. All right. Any final thoughts? Last call? All right. Then we will adjourn this meeting. It's currently 9:04 p.m. and we'll